So in 5 minutes or less, I'm going to teach you how to run an AI gap analysis for your Christian school. You know, it's no question at all that people are still using normal traditional search, such as Google, Bing, Yahoo, DuckDuckGo, whatever search engine they use, that it's still there. However, so many more parents are using things like what you can see on my screen, ChatGPT or other AI tools to learn more about Christian schools near them. And a question I often get asked is, how do you know how well your school is performing online? Now, you can run tools and have different softwares kind of track those things. Or, and again, 5 minutes or less, you can do your own AI gap analysis. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to run through all of the steps that it takes to do it. There's 6 total steps to run this gap analysis and then take a next step. Well, so technically there's only 5 steps to do the gap analysis and then a follow-up of, all right, here's how we grow in this area. So what we're going to do is I have ChatGPT up here on the screen. I'm going to walk through all of the 5 steps right here with you and show you how to perform this for your school. So for example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Now, before I even get started, just know I am not signed into ChatGPT at all. This is a clear search because I don't want it to know anything about what I've searched before. This is fresh. So I'm going to go, who are the top Christian schools in the South Bend, Indiana, and it's not many communities, include all of Michiana, which is what we call our area because of Michigan and Indiana. So as we know, it's going to run this search, and here we go. Here's the top ones. It's doing our entire area, which is a whole lot of fun. So I'm all the way yep, perfect. Okay, so the top Christian schools are Trinity School at Green Lawn, Bethany Christian Schools, Granger Christian Schools, Covenant Christian Schools, Community Baptist. Now, this is interesting because my kid's Christian school is not here on this list, and it's one of the biggest ones in the area. I know a lot of these Christian schools based off of, some of it's doing proximity of South Bend, because it includes Trinity School at Green Lawn, but Trinity School at Green Lawn is a very different type of Christian school. It's not a traditional Christian school at all. And it's not classical. It's almost like traditional, where they have boys only classes, girls only classes, and it's a different type of school all the way across the board. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to run this test through my kid's Christian school. So we got our list up here, so we're good to go. So the next one we're going to do is we're going to do this next prompt, which is create a side-by-side comparison of this entire list, complete with all the information that you can find out about these schools. However, and this might be something that you do. If you do not see your school, you can ask the question of, why is my school not showing up? In fact, let's do that now. Why is Elkhart All right, let's see why Elkhart is not on the list. I prioritize schools that are most consistently cited for academic rigor or regional reputation, which is fascinating because it actually is one of the top schools in the area, which is why we chose it. So what's interesting is now that we are talking about, now so we're piping the stuff in. So ChatGPT so far knows all the Christian schools in the area and our kids' Christian school. So that being said, it's bringing that in. It has some potential issues like why it didn't actually put that into the list. And if you're like, hey, we actually perform better than these schools in the same way, maybe you need to add that verbiage to your website in some way, shape, or form. Next thing we are going to do is create the side-by-side comparison with this entire list. So that way we can see the differences between our school and their school. And so while this is all pulling up, here's some of the big things, all right? What we need to do is, this is actually step 3 of the process, is actually figuring out where ChatGPT has gotten all of its information for why it's pulling these different schools up in the way that they are doing it. And then what we have to do is go into each one of these different locations, such as greater schools or niche schools or privateschools.com, something like that, and make sure all of our information is updated. But this is where it gets really fun and it gets really fascinating. And I'm going to shrink my face down here just a little bit. So if we come down here where we have all the different lists, we can see where they are pulling some of this information from. Now, for Elkhart Christian Academy, it's pulling in Private School Review, and it's also pulling in the website. The other places, it's not necessarily showing where it is pulling all of this information from. Now, as we can see here on this list, we want to make sure that ChatGPT is pulling the right information about our school. For example, if your school's enrollment says it's only 100 kids, but you really have 300, you need to figure out where are they getting their enrollment numbers from. If we see something for like theology, like for Elkhart Christian Academy, Baptist/Evangelical, that is correct. Bethany Christian Schools is Mennonite. Trinity, oh, there you go, perfect. Classical Christian. The size and feel, large versus medium, I would say it's a little bit different. And it's even pulling some stats like our school actually ranks their ACT scores versus some of the notable strength. So as you are doing a side-by-side comparison of your school versus other schools, you got to make sure, A, it's showing the right information. B, you want to ask the question of where on earth are they getting all of this information from? And then C, what do we need to do to change where that information is coming from? So for Elkhart Christian Academy, for example, their information is coming off of privateschoolreview.com, where it has a handful of checklist. It talks about the student body size, the religious affiliation, the campus size, year founded, all this kind of fun stuff. And you want to make sure that all of this information actually is correct. So you want to make sure that you sign up for privateschoolreview.com to get that information. And then going beyond that, you want to make sure you actually are getting reviews for this school. Or for your school. My question is when was the last time you asked parents to leave reviews for your school? Because in the previous video, we talked about what can we do to get our school to show up higher, and faster in AI search results? And the answer is simple. Get more and more reviews. And not just 5-star, my kid love it, but talk about a very in-depth review of, I have this many kids at the school. So I can say, hey, I have 7 out of my 8 kids at the school. Some of my kids have special needs. ECA has met those needs through the IEP program and also through their talent development specialists. We are so thankful for the school to give our kids all these different opportunities with its athletics and performances and piano lessons and things like that. That specific review helps actually fuel what ChatGPT is actually showing parents, because it's my words as an actual parent of this is what this school provides, and it shows that. The other thing too is if you are seeing stuff on here that doesn't necessarily also make sense, or it's not pulling in the right information, you also want to check and make sure your website is using those words just to make sure everything is good to go. If you want to find another way to also get the right information in front of ChatGPT to make sure all this information not only is just correct, but you might see some gaps. This is where the difference comes, is if I were to even do a prompt where it's like, what's the biggest differences between Now, obviously, this video is going longer than 5 minutes because I'm talking in between. But if you just do some of these prompts, and all the prompts are listed in the blog post, you can do all of this in 5 minutes really, really fast, because we want to see where the big gaps are from what we have going on with our school, and then also with some of the other schools. And then what you can do to try to change, or I would say make the gaps a little bit smaller to make sure that your school is stepping into the right places and saying the right things in comparison, where it says this is a more service/community plus Mennonite worldview, less traditional evangelical Baptist culture. Okay, what does that mean? Do parents care about this? Because if they're comparing these two things between, okay, Bethany Christian offers this, but your school offers that, what's the difference and what does that mean? What you can do to kind of fill in those gaps is utilize an FAQ page for your school. So a lot of times schools will just use their FAQ page to be like, how do I enroll? How do I get started? Do you take middle of the year transfers? And very good questions like that people want to know about admissions, but people want to know about your school as well. So if you could say, what does it mean that you have Baptist roots? What does that mean? Can any denomination be part of your school, even if we don't go to a Baptist church? Which for our school, the answer is 100% yes. You don't have to be Baptist. In fact, some of our teachers aren't even Baptist, because now all of our school administrators are members of First Baptist Church of Elkhart, because we are connected to that church. But that being said, that's not what our school is all about. Now, leadership is, but not all the teachers are. So when you're trying to do this gap analysis, again, you first want to ask ChatGPT of show me all the schools in our community and see what pulls up. If your school does not pull up, ask ChatGPT, what do I need to do, or why didn't you pull my school up? What do you know about my school? You're going to look at all the information that pulls up about your school, see where it's pulling all of that information. And sometimes it might not show you, like Granger Christian, it doesn't tell you where got that information, whereas Trinity, it actually does, because Trinity has quick facts all about the school where they answer a lot of these big questions. Even down to like religious affiliations and school awards and college readiness and stuff like that as well. So you want to figure out where they're getting that information from and then go to those places and update your information. Again, niche schools, was it best schools? There's also like what we did here with privateschoolreview.com. There's so many places where ChatGPT and other places pull information about your school. So you got to make sure those things are right. And if you're still seeing gaps between like, okay, we want to speak into some of these things where it's like, Trinity School is much more academically intense and classical. What does that mean? We'll talk about like, we have a traditional education model and this is why we believe in that. Or, this is saying more service-based community plus Mennonite worldview. Like you can say, what's the difference between ECA and a lot of the other schools in our area? And actually call out what it is. This is what our school is all about. Because the more information you have on your website, the more information you have in outside places, the better for ChatGPT. So needless to say, in just 5 minutes or less, obviously the video went way longer than that, but if you were to take these prompts in 5 minutes, you can see the big gaps between where your school is, where other schools are, and how to actually maybe either shrink the gap or speak into some of these places that parents are looking for information about the school. You want to meet parents where they're at, answer all the questions that they have. And if you see this and see our school's not showing up well on this at all, now is a great opportunity to take advantage of just honestly a lot of free information that's out there with getting your information fixed on a lot of free platforms, but also making sure your website is up to snuff with both what's needed for search and for also AI search as well. And if you are in need of a Christian school website, I invite you to go to christianschoolwebsite.com, where for in as simple as literally less than a month, we can get you a brand new Christian school website that is your pictures, your videos, your verbiage, and it's all done in such a way where it populates ChatGPT with all the information that it needs to know. It also makes sure that for traditional search, you are showing up and ranking high for the private Christian school in your specific area. And then when parents come to the website, they are guided all the way through scheduling a visit and actually getting enrollment information about your school. So if you want to know more information about that, again, go to christianschoolwebsites.com and make sure that your school is ready to get found so that way you can turn online visitors into enrolled families.